You can either move to the laundry room or leave, my dad announced at Thanksgiving dinner. You understand, right? My brother added with a smirk. I didn't respond. I simply walked out. But just a few days later, Dad began to panic. Wait, Camilla's been covering everything, even my medication. My name is Camilla. I'm 27 years old, and I've been living with my dad in Kansas City, Missouri for the past 5 years. Most people might find that unusual for someone my age, but there was a good reason. My dad had been diagnosed with diabetes and high blood pressure 3 years ago, and his medications were costly, very costly. Between his prescriptions, the house bills, groceries, and other expenses, I had been covering nearly everything. I worked full-time as a dental hygienist at a downtown clinic. My brother Jacob, 32, lived in Denver with his wife Stephanie. They'd been there for 8 years, rarely visiting, maybe twice a year, and never offering financial help. When Dad got sick, Jacob's idea of support was sending a fruit basket and a get-well-soon card. No phone calls, no offer to split costs, nothing. Still, I didn't mind caring for Dad. After Mom passed when I was 19, he was my rock. He supported me through school, encouraged me when I changed careers, and never made me feel like a burden. So when he fell ill, helping him felt like the right thing to do, but Jacob saw family responsibility differently. The tension began about 3 weeks before Thanksgiving when Jacob suddenly called Dad. I was in the kitchen, preparing dinner when I heard Dad's voice light up. Jacob, what a surprise! How are you? I couldn't hear Jacob's words, but I watched Dad's expression shift, from cheerful to uneasy to something I couldn't identify. When he hung up, he looked unsettled. Everything okay? I asked, handing him his evening pills with a glass of water. Jacob and Stephanie are having some financial issues, Dad said carefully. It sounds serious. They might need to move back here for a bit, just temporarily. Maybe a few months while they get back on track. My stomach sank. Move back here? Into this house? Well, yes, Dad replied, his tired eyes silently urging me not to object. He's my son, Camilla. Family helps family, those words stung. I'd been helping family nonstop for 5 years, but apparently, that only mattered when it was convenient. Okay, I said softly. When? Mid-November, before Thanksgiving probably. That gave us less than 3 weeks to prepare. Our home wasn't large. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a small kitchen, and a modest living room. Dad had the master, I had the second bedroom, and the third had long been a storage room. So where exactly were Jacob and Stephanie supposed to stay? The answer arrived 2 weeks later. On a cold Tuesday afternoon, Jacob's truck pulled into the driveway just as I got home from work, still in my scrubs. They were unloading boxes. Lots of boxes. Hey sis, surprise. We're a few days early, Jacob said cheerfully. Stephanie stood beside him, arms crossed, surveying the house like it was beneath her. She'd always been like that, judgmental about our home, our family, our entire town. I'd learned to ignore it. Dad didn't mention you'd be here today, I said evenly. Last-minute decision, Jacob replied. Our landlord wanted us out by the end of the month, so we figured, why wait? He began carrying boxes toward the door. Dad's inside. He's helping us figure out the sleeping arrangements. That phrase immediately set off alarm bells in my mind. Sleeping arrangements. I followed them inside, my heart pounding. Dad stood in the hallway looking tense. When he saw me, he tried to smile, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. Camilla, good, you're home. We need to talk about rooms. The storage room? I offered, trying to sound hopeful. We could clear it out. It's full of junk and there's no closet, Stephanie interrupted, wrinkling her nose. That wouldn't work at all. Jacob nodded in agreement. We were thinking, since it's just you, maybe you could take the laundry room, he suggested. We can put a futon in there or something. It's only temporary. A few months at most. I just stared at him. The laundry room? You want me to sleep in the laundry room? It's not that small, Jacob said defensively. And like I said, it's temporary. I turned to Dad, waiting for him to say something, to defend me, but he only shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my eyes. What about all my stuff? I asked quietly. My bed, my dresser, my clothes. We can store most of it, Stephanie said briskly, as if the decision had already been made. You really don't need that much space anyway. That night, I barely slept on the futon Jacob had set up in the laundry room. The space smelled like detergent and mildew, and every time the water heater turned on, the whole room vibrated. I lay there staring at the ceiling, my clothes hanging on a tension rod above the utility sink. My entire life reduced to 100 square feet. The next morning, I found Stephanie already in the kitchen making coffee. She'd rearranged everything. My favorite mugs were shoved to the back of the cabinet, and the coffee maker I'd bought last year had been replaced with an expensive espresso machine they'd brought from Denver. "Morning," I said, trying to locate the bread. "Oh, that's in the pantry now." I reorganized. The old setup didn't make sense. She didn't even look up from her phone. I found the bread and made toast in silence before gathering my things for work. When I reached for my lunch bag in the fridge, it wasn't there. "Did you see a blue lunch bag?" I asked. "Oh, that old thing?" she said casually. "It was taking up space, so I tossed it." "You can just buy lunch today." Stephanie sipped her espresso. "Besides, you probably eat out all the time anyway, right? Working at a dentist's office, you must do well." I didn't bother correcting her about my job. That bag was mine. Worn out, but still mine. "I'll buy you a new one if it's that important," she added, waving dismissively. I left without another word, my jaw so tight it ached. The following weeks became a lesson in how it feels to be made unwelcome in your own home. Jacob and Stephanie took over everything, rearranging furniture, complaining about the neighborhood, and treating the house like a hotel where I was the unwanted staff member. Stephanie even started commenting on my schedule. "You're home a lot for someone who works full-time," she said one evening as I cooked dinner. "Don't dental offices have long hours?" "I work 8 to 5, Monday through Friday," I replied, stirring the pasta. "Pretty standard." Jacob works remotely now, 60 hours a week, minimum. That's real dedication." I bit my tongue and said nothing. The breaking point came on Thanksgiving Day. I'd been looking forward to it, hoping we could finally have one normal family meal. I'd volunteered to cook the turkey and make my grandmother's stuffing, Dad's favorite. But when I came out of the laundry room that morning, Stephanie was already in the kitchen. "I'm doing Thanksgiving this year," she announced. "No offense, but I have standards." "I was going to make Grandma's stuffing," I said softly. "That old recipe? Way too much butter. I'm making a quinoa version, much healthier." Dad walked in and saw the look on my face. "Camilla makes wonderful stuffing," he said weakly. "Dad, you have diabetes and high blood pressure," Jacob added, stepping behind him. "Stephanie's version is better for you. You should thank her for caring about your health." I wanted to scream, to remind them that I'd been the one caring for Dad for 3 years, making sure he took his meds, followed his diet, and never missed an appointment. But instead, I swallowed it all down. The dinner felt tense from the start. Stephanie's quinoa stuffing lacked flavor, and the turkey was dry, yet Jacob complimented everything as if it were a gourmet feast. Dad barely touched his food, occasionally sending me that familiar apologetic glance I was growing tired of. After dinner, while I was washing the dishes, since no one else offered, Jacob and Stephanie cornered Dad in the living room. I couldn't catch every word, but I heard bits and pieces. "Not just a few months." "Makes sense. Already settled. She's taking up space." My hands paused in the soapy water. I dried them and stepped into the living room doorway. "What's going on?" Dad looked uneasy again. That expression seemed permanent now. Jacob and Stephanie explained that their situation in Denver was more complicated than expected. They might need to stay longer. "How much longer?" I asked. "Indefinitely," Stephanie replied, without even trying to sound sorry. "Until we figure things out," Jacob added, glancing at Dad instead of me. "The house is getting crowded. 3 adults work fine, but 4 is too much. And honestly, Camilla's the only one here without a partner. It doesn't make sense for her to occupy a full bedroom when she could easily get her own place." I felt stunned. "This is my home." "It's Dad's home," Jacob corrected, "and he needs to think about what's best for him in the long run. Stephanie and I plan to stay and really help him, not just throw money at the problem." "Throw money at the problem?" My tone came out sharper than I meant. "Is that what you think I've been doing?" "We're just saying Dad needs more than financial help," Stephanie said smoothly. "He needs family who care about him, not just his bills." Then Dad spoke, and his words cut deep. "Camilla, maybe they have a point. You're young. You should focus on your own life instead of spending your 20s looking after your old father. Jacob and Stephanie are here now. They can help. The word felt empty. They'd been here for 3 weeks without paying a cent toward groceries, bills, or anything else. So what are you saying? I asked Dad directly. You want me to leave? Not leave exactly, he said carefully. Just, maybe it's time to think about your future. You could get your own apartment, live your life. Jacob nodded eagerly. Exactly. Or if you insist on staying, you could take the laundry room. We just need a proper bedroom. The words stung. I looked at my father, the man I'd cared for the past 5 years, paid his medical bills, picked up his prescriptions, and rearranged my work schedule for. And now he was telling me to move to the laundry room or leave. You can move to the laundry room or leave, Dad repeated, avoiding my eyes. You understand, don't you? You understand, don't you? Jacob echoed with a smirk, as if he'd won something. I didn't cry or argue. I just went to the laundry room, packed my clothes into the same 2 suitcases I'd brought from college, and called my friend Kelly. She'd offered many times to let me stay with her. I'd always brushed it off, never thinking I'd actually need to accept. Come over, Kelly said immediately when I explained everything. Stay as long as you need. An hour later, I was loading my car. Dad came out as I placed the last suitcase in the trunk. Camilla, you don't have to do this right now. Sleep on it. We can talk tomorrow. There's nothing to talk about, I said quietly. You've made your choice. Jacob and Stephanie need the space more. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. I closed the trunk. I'll still help with your medications, Dad. I'm not abandoning you. But I won't stay somewhere I'm not wanted. Then I drove to Kelly's apartment in Midtown, hands trembling on the steering wheel. Kelly had a spare bedroom she'd been using for storage, and that night she helped me clear it out. We didn't say much. She just hugged me when I finally broke down crying around midnight. The next few days passed in a haze. I went to work, came back to Kelly's, and tried to figure out what to do next. Since I'd been covering all the bills at Dad's house, my savings were running low. I knew I'd need my own place soon, but rent in Kansas City wasn't cheap. 4 days after I left, Dad called. His voice sounded uneasy. Camilla, I need your help with something. What is it? I'm trying to refill my prescriptions, but the pharmacy says there's a payment issue. The card on file was declined. My stomach sank. That's my card, Dad. I just haven't updated it yet with my new address. Can you call them? I need these medications. I'm almost out. Sure, I'll handle it, I said, then hung up and stared at my phone. Suddenly, a memory surfaced. One from years ago, right after his diagnosis. He'd been worried about the costs, and I'd reassured him that I'd take care of it. In that conversation, he'd sighed in relief and said, "Thank goodness for Medicare, at least it covers most of it." I'd wanted to explain that Medicare didn't cover everything and that the supplemental plan and prescriptions were expensive, but he looked so relieved. I let it go. Over time, he convinced himself that the government was paying for his health care. He never asked about the bills or where the money came from. Jacob and Stephanie clearly believed the same thing. That conversation at Thanksgiving about me throwing money at the problem had made it obvious. They thought I was just helping a little, not paying for everything. I called Kelly over. I need to show you something. I opened my laptop and pulled up my bank statements from the past 3 years. The total was staggering. Dad's medications alone cost around $800 a month. His supplemental insurance was another $300. The mortgage payment was $900. Utilities averaged $200. Groceries, gas, and household items added at least another $400. Kelly looked shocked. Camilla, you've been paying over $2,500 a month. Sometimes more. Does your dad know? Does Jacob? I don't think so. Dad never asked. He just assumed Medicare covered it all. Jacob's never been involved enough to know. Kelly leaned back. So they kicked you out thinking you were just pitching in, not realizing you were funding his entire life. What are you going to do? I thought about it for a long time. Part of me wanted to let them struggle and figure it out the hard way. But another part, the responsible one that still cared about Dad, knew I couldn't just walk away. I'll talk to him, I said finally. But not yet. Let them handle things for a few weeks. Let them see what it really costs to take care of him. Then we'll have a conversation about expectations and responsibilities, Kelly smiled. I like that plan. The pharmacy called again the next day and again the day after. Each time I told them I was working on resolving the payment issue. By the 7th day, Dad had called me 3 times. Camilla, I really need those medications. The pharmacy says they can't fill them without payment. I know, Dad, I'm sorting it out. Can't you just give them your card number? It's not that simple. There are some things I need to handle first. He sounded irritated. I don't get why this is so complicated. Can't Jacob just pay for it and you pay him back? There it was. The assumption that his medications cost maybe $50 or $100, not $800. Sure. Dad! Have Jacob call the pharmacy and put his card on file. 2 hours later, Jacob called. The confidence he'd shown at Thanksgiving was gone. Camilla, what the hell? The pharmacy quoted me $800 for Dad's meds. That can't be right. That's the monthly cost, I said evenly. Sometimes more depending on what the doctor prescribes. 800? Seriously? I thought Medicare covered this. Medicare Part B covers some things. The supplemental plan covers a bit more, but there are still co-pays and uncovered medications. The diabetes meds alone are expensive. How long have you been paying this? Every month for the past 3 years. Silence. I could almost hear him doing the math. That's nearly $10,000 a year just for medications. More, actually, once you add doctor visits and insurance premiums. More silence. Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't Dad tell us? Dad doesn't know. He thinks Medicare covers it all. I never corrected him. There wasn't any point. The bills had to be paid either way. Well, we can't afford $800 right now. We just moved, and we've got expenses. Then you'll have to figure something out, I said calmly. Maybe help Dad apply for assistance programs or ask about cheaper generic options. The pharmacist can guide you. Camilla, you can't just stop paying. He needs those meds. I'm not stopping for good. I'm just stepping back while you and Stephanie take over for a bit. You said you wanted to help him. This is helping. That's not what I meant, and you know it. Then what did you mean, Jacob? When you said you wanted to really help and not just throw money at the situation, what exactly did that look like to you? He didn't have an answer. I ended the call and instantly felt guilty. But Kelly, who had overheard everything, shook her head. Don't feel bad. They literally forced you out of your own home. They can manage Dad's bills for a while. She was right, but the guilt didn't fade. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept picturing Dad missing his medication, his blood pressure rising, or ending up in the hospital. By 3 a.m., I'd convinced myself I was being heartless. Then a text from Stephanie popped up. This is ridiculous. Your father's health is at risk, and you're acting like a child. Grow up. The guilt disappeared. I turned off my phone and went to sleep. The next morning, Dad's doctor's office called. They needed to confirm his appointment and verify his insurance details. I used to handle all of that, keeping everything organized in a binder, the one I left behind. I'm not managing his care anymore, I told the receptionist. You'll need to contact Jacob or Stephanie. Oh, okay. Do you have their number? I gave her Jacob's and hung up. An hour later, Jacob texted, Why is Dad's doctor calling me? Where's his insurance card? Where are the medical records? I didn't reply. 2 days later, the mortgage payment bounced. It used to come directly from my account, but I canceled the auto payment right after I moved out. The bank called Dad, who called me, panicked. Camilla, the bank says the mortgage didn't go through. There must be a mistake. It's not a mistake, Dad. I canceled the payment. Why would you do that? The house could go into foreclosure. Then Jacob and Stephanie need to handle it. It's $900 due on the 1st. $900? I thought it was less. It's been $900 for years, Dad. I've been paying it every month. There was a long silence. Finally, he asked quietly, How much have you been paying in total? For what? For everything. The mortgage, medication, all of it. I took a deep breath. Around $2,500 to $3,000 a month, depending. More when you saw specialists? $2,500? His voice trailed off. Camilla, I didn't know. I thought Medicare covered most of it. I thought you were helping with small things. I know, Dad. I didn't correct you because I didn't want to add to your stress. I figured it didn't matter as long as the bills were paid. So, over 3 years, that's about $90,000? Roughly. He was silent again, then said shakily, I need to talk to Jacob. Good idea, I said, and hung up. That evening, Kelly came home to find me eating ice cream on her couch. Rough day? I told Dad what I've been paying. He's in shock. Good, he should be. She sat beside me. What do you think Jacob's going to do? Probably panic. He and Stephanie have been overspending for years. That's why they moved back. They can't afford it. So what's your end game? I thought for a moment. Honestly? I just want them to understand what I've been doing, that I wasn't just throwing money around. I was giving up my own future to take care of Dad, and I want an apology for being treated like a burden. Fair. Think you'll get it? Maybe from Dad, not from Jacob. The next few days were silent, no calls, no texts. I started to worry something had gone wrong, but I forced myself not to reach out. They'd said they could handle things. On the 12th day, Stephanie showed up at Kelly's apartment. I saw her through the peephole, arms crossed, face tense. I almost didn't answer. "We need to talk," she said. "About what?" "About you leaving your father stranded. His utilities are about to be cut off because you were paying them. He's almost out of his medication, and Jacob and I don't have $800 right now." I gestured for her to sit, but she stayed standing, arms crossed. Kelly quietly went to her room, though I knew she was listening. "You're right," I said calmly. "I was paying for all of it. Utilities, medication, mortgage, groceries. Well, you can't just stop. That's abandonment, is it? Because I was the one abandoned. Kicked out so you two could have a bedroom. Told to sleep in the laundry room or leave. Remember?" Stephanie flushed. "That was different. We needed space, and I needed a home. But nobody cared about that. You're exaggerating. We didn't kick you out. We just thought you'd be more comfortable elsewhere. You threw away my things, took over my room, and treated me like I didn't belong. And when I finally left, nobody stopped me. My voice rose despite myself. You wanted me gone, so now I'm gone. Now you get to handle everything I did. Your father could die without his medication. Then you'd better figure out how to pay for it. I can't. I've spent $90,000 over 3 years. My savings are gone. I'm 27 with almost nothing left because I put Dad's health before my own life." Stephanie's face shifted. 90,000? Give or take. Want to see proof? She sat down heavily. Jacob said it was expensive, but I didn't realize. That's the problem. None of you realized. You all assumed I was covering small things. Instead of asking or being grateful, you treated me like a nuisance. What do you want from us? She finally asked. I want an apology. I want acknowledgement. And if I come back to help, I want things to be different. Come back? You'd move back in. Maybe, if I'm treated with respect and my space is returned. But honestly, I doubt it. You and Jacob will probably resent me now that you know the truth. Guilt turns into anger fast. She didn't deny it, and that told me everything. After she left, Kelly came out. You handled that well. Did I? It feels like I made things worse. You set boundaries. That's progress. That night, Dad called. His voice sounded tired. Camilla, I need to apologize. I had no idea what you were doing or paying. Jacob showed me the numbers, and I couldn't believe it. I thought Medicare covered most of it. I thought you were just helping a little. I know, Dad. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were already overwhelmed. I didn't want to add financial worry. I thought taking care of it quietly was better. You were helping. More than I ever realized. You've been saving my life, and I repaid you by letting them push you out. I'm so sorry. The apology should have felt comforting, but instead it only left me feeling exhausted. What are you going to do, Dad? About the bills, the medications, everything? Jacob and I talked. A long talk, he said. He's taking over the mortgage payment, and Stephanie will handle groceries. They'll both contribute while they're here. That's good, I replied. But the medications, insurance, and medical bills, Camilla. That's more than they can manage right now. They're already stretched thin. I spoke with my doctor about cheaper options, and we're exploring those. I also applied for assistance programs. But until then, I need you to keep paying for the medications, just for now. I know I don't deserve your help after everything. I closed my eyes. This was the moment I'd been avoiding. The point where I had to choose between standing firm or taking care of my father. I'll pay for this month's medications, I said finally. Only this month. After that, you need a plan. Assistance programs, alternatives, whatever it takes. I can't keep draining my savings, Dad. I have to think about my future. I understand, he said softly. Thank you, Camilla. Thank you so much. But Dad, I'm not moving back. Not right now. Maybe not ever. I need some distance from all this. I understand that too. I don't blame you. After the call, I sat on Kelly's couch and cried. Not out of sadness, but pure emotional exhaustion. Kelly sat beside me silently, offering tissues while I let it all out. The next morning, I called the pharmacy and paid for Dad's medications, 847s I couldn't really afford, but couldn't avoid either. When I checked my bank balance, less than $2,000 remained. Years of saving and sacrifice, and this was where I stood. But something shifted that day. I realized I couldn't keep living like this, putting everyone else first at the cost of my own peace. I started searching for a second job to rebuild my savings and looked for a small, affordable apartment of my own. That evening, Kelly found me scrolling through listings. "You sure about this? You can stay here as long as you want." "I know, and I'm grateful," I said. "But I need my own space, my own life, away from the family chaos." "Good for you," she smiled. "You deserve that." 2 weeks later, I found a studio apartment in Midtown, close to Kelly's place. Small but clean, with hardwood floors and plenty of light. The rent was reasonable, especially with my new weekend job doing admin work for a catering company. Moving in felt like a fresh start. I didn't have much, just a bed, a small table, and basic kitchen items, but it was mine. No one could order me around or touch my things. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. A few days after moving in, Dad called. "Camilla, I got approved for one of the assistance programs. It'll cover about 60% of my medication costs." "That's great, Dad." "It is. And Jacob and Stephanie are helping with expenses like they said. Things are better now." "I'm glad. Will you come for dinner sometime?" "I'd like to see you." "Maybe later," I said gently. He accepted that without complaint, a surprise. Maybe he was beginning to understand the damage that had been done. But understanding didn't mean everything was healed. A week later, Stephanie called. "We need to talk about Thanksgiving." "Thanksgiving? That's months away. I'm planning early. I want everyone on the same page." "We'd like you to come. It'd mean a lot to your father." "I'll think about it." Also, Jacob and I are still recovering financially. If you could contribute maybe $200 or $300 for groceries, that'd help. I almost laughed. "No." "What?" "But you always help with family expenses." "I'm not family anymore, remember?" "You made that clear. Don't be ridiculous." "Of course you're family." Family doesn't kick someone out of their home, Stephanie. Family doesn't make them sleep in the laundry room or ignore their help. "You want to host Thanksgiving?" "Great, you pay for it." "I'm not your ATM." I hung up before she could reply. Kelly found me pacing afterward. "What happened?" "Stephanie wanted me to pay for Thanksgiving dinner. After everything, she still had the nerve to ask for money." "What did you say?" I said no, loudly. Kelly grinned. "Good, you're learning." But the calls kept coming. Over the next month, I got more requests for a broken water heater, new car tires, a doctor's copay. Each time I said no. Each time it got a little easier. Then one Saturday morning, Jacob showed up at my apartment looking exhausted. "Can I come in?" he asked. I almost refused, but he looked genuinely defeated. "Fine, but make it quick. I have plans soon." He sat at my kitchen table, head in his hands. Stephanie left. She went back to Denver 3 days ago. Said she couldn't handle living in Dad's house anymore. Or being broke. Are you serious? Yeah, she said I could stay and deal with Dad on my own. She's filing for divorce. I'm sorry, Jacob. Don't be. She was right to leave. This whole situation's been a disaster. I thought moving back would be easy. I thought Dad didn't need much help. I thought you were exaggerating about the bills. I was wrong. I had no idea. And now you do, I said quietly. Yeah, and I'm drowning. The mortgage alone is killing me. I still don't have stable work, just random gigs. I can't afford to stay, but I can't afford to leave either. What do you want from me, Jacob? Nothing, he said. I'm not here for money. I just wanted to apologize, truly apologize. What Stephanie and I did was wrong. Taking your room, dismissing everything you did for Dad, it was all wrong. I'm sorry, his words hung in the air. Part of me wanted to reject them, but another part, the part that remembered when we were just siblings who cared about each other, wanted to believe him. Thank you, I said finally. I appreciate that. I'm moving out, he continued. Found a cheap room across town. Dad's not thrilled, but I need to start over. I'll still help where I can, but I have to build my own life first. That's probably for the best. He stood to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, you were a better child to Dad than I ever was. You showed up when it counted. After he left, I sat alone in my quiet apartment trying to process everything. Stephanie was gone. Jacob was moving out. Dad was once again on his own. And strangely, I didn't feel guilty about it anymore. That night, Dad called. Jacob told you what happened? He did. I'm going to be by myself again. Jacob's moving out next week. I know. I was hoping maybe you could move back. I realize it's a lot to ask, but no, Dad, I'm not moving back. I have my own place now, my own life, and I like it. But I need help. I can't handle everything alone. Then hire help. There are services that assist seniors with daily routines, medication, all of that. You can afford it now that you're not supporting 2 other adults. It's not the same as family. Maybe not. But family should be a two-way street, Dad. It's not meant to be one person giving everything while everyone else just takes. I've done my part. I'm 27, and I need to start living for myself. The silence on the other end was long and heavy. I understand, he finally said. I don't like it, but I understand. 3 months later, I was thriving. The catering job I'd picked up as a second gig turned into a full-time position as their office manager, paying far better than my dental hygienist role. I kept both jobs, picking up some evening and weekend shifts at the clinic because I genuinely enjoyed it. With 2 steady incomes, my financial situation changed completely. My nearly empty savings account began to grow. I bought real furniture for my apartment. I treated myself to things I'd gone without for years. Nice clothes, dinners out with Kelly. For the first time since Mom passed, I felt like I was living my own life instead of existing for someone else's needs. Dad and I talked occasionally, short phone calls where he'd mention his health, and I'd respond politely. He'd figured out senior assistance programs, found affordable medication, and hired a part-time aide to help with groceries and chores. He was managing, though he often reminded me how difficult it was. Jacob had moved out and was slowly rebuilding his life. His divorce from Stephanie was ongoing and unpleasant, but he'd found steady freelance work as a graphic designer and seemed more grounded than before. We'd met for coffee a few times, awkward attempts at rebuilding our relationship, but we weren't close. Too much had happened. Then, one Tuesday in February, I got a call from an unknown number. Is this Camilla? Yes, who's speaking? This is Margaret from Community Home Health Services. I'm the aide assigned to your father. I'm calling because I'm concerned about a few things I've observed. My stomach tightened. What kind of things? Your father's mentioned several times that you abandoned him, that you refuse to help even though you're financially able. He says you're selfish and that you've left him struggling while you live comfortably. Normally, I wouldn't get involved in family issues, but I thought you should know. Heat rose in my face. He said I abandoned him multiple times. He seems quite bitter. Did he mention that he kicked me out to make room for my brother and sister-in-law? Or that I covered nearly all his expenses for 3 years before that? Margaret paused. No, he didn't mention any of that. Of course he didn't. I took a slow breath. Thank you for calling, Margaret. I appreciate you letting me know. After hanging up, I stared at my phone, anger building in my chest. Dad was telling people I'd abandoned him. He was casting himself as the victim, and me as the villain, leaving out every fact that might make him look bad. I called Jacob. Have you talked to Dad lately? Yeah, last week. Why? Has he been complaining about me to you? Jacob hesitated. He's mentioned that he wishes you were more involved, that he feels you've cut him off. He's telling his home aide that I abandoned him, that I'm selfish and unwilling to help. Camilla, I'm sure he's just what? Rewriting history to make himself look good? Playing the victim after kicking his own daughter out? My voice shook. I gave him 3 years of my life, Jacob. 3 years and $90,000. I put my future on hold to take care of him. And this is how he repays me? What are you going to do? I don't know yet. But I'm done protecting his feelings. That weekend, I drafted a detailed email. I attached scanned bank statements showing every payment I'd made over those 3 years. Mortgage payments, utility bills, medical receipts, insurance premiums, everything. I laid out a timeline from the day Jacob and Stephanie moved in to the day I left. I even included Stephanie's texts calling me ridiculous for not paying Dad's medical bills immediately. Then I sent it to Dad, Jacob, and a few extended family members he'd apparently been complaining to, my aunts, uncles, cousins. The subject line read, "Setting the record straight." The email was factual and calm, no emotion, no drama, just dates, amounts, and receipts. The numbers spoke for themselves. Responses came within hours. My Aunt Patricia called first. Camilla, I had no idea. Your father made it sound like you just stopped caring. I'm sure he did. These records, honey, this is incredible. You've been supporting him all this time? Until I couldn't anymore. I'm so sorry. We've all been feeling sorry for him. And all along, I was the one being taken advantage of. More messages followed. Family members who'd believed Dad's story were shocked by the truth. Some apologized for judging me. Others just couldn't believe how much I'd paid. Dad didn't call. Not that day or the next. But a week later, I got a text from him. We need to talk in person. I waited 2 days before replying. Fine. Kelly's coffee shop on Main Street. Saturday at 2 p.m. Saturday came cold and gray, typical February in Kansas City. I arrived at Kelly's 15 minutes early and chose a corner table where I could see the door. My stomach tightened, but I'd gone over this conversation in my mind countless times. I knew exactly what I needed to say. Dad arrived right on time at 2 p.m., looking older than I remembered. The past few months had clearly taken a toll on him. When he spotted me, he walked over slowly, leaning heavily on his cane. "Thanks for meeting me," he said, sitting down across from me. "You said we needed to talk, so talk." He winced slightly at my tone. "That email you sent," I began. "Was that really necessary? Because from what I hear, you've been telling everyone that I abandoned you. Doesn't that seem unnecessary too?" "I was venting," he said. "I was hurt." "You were lying," I replied, leaning forward. "You left out every detail that made you look bad. You didn't mention kicking me out. You didn't mention the money I spent on you. You just made yourself look like a poor, abandoned father and me like the selfish daughter. Did you think I'd just stay silent? I didn't think you'd air our family business," he said quietly. "It stopped being private when you started spreading lies. You made it public, Dad. I just told the truth." He was silent for a while, stirring his coffee but not drinking it. "I was angry," he said finally. "You have to see it from my side. You left. You stopped helping. I felt abandoned. You told me to move into the laundry room or leave," I said flatly. "Those were my only options." "What did you expect me to do?" "I expected you to remember we're family, that we fix things together. Like how you, Jacob, and Stephanie fixed the problem of me being in the way by pushing me out." "We didn't kick you out. We just needed space." "Dad, stop." I set my cup down harder than I meant to. "Stop rewriting history. You chose them over me. You gave them my room, my space, my home. And when I left, none of you tried to stop me. You all seemed relieved." "That's not true," he murmured, "isn't it? Be honest. When I packed my car and drove off, were you sad or just relieved the tension was gone?" He didn't answer. That silence said enough. "I don't get it," I continued. "I spent 3 years taking care of you. I gave up my savings, my social life, my future to make sure you were fine. Then the moment your favorite showed up, you threw me aside. Like those years meant nothing." "They did mean something," he said. "You meant something." Not enough, apparently. Dad's hands trembled as he wrapped them around his cup. "What do you want from me, Camilla? An apology? Fine, I'm sorry. For all of it. I don't want an apology. Not anymore. I wanted one 3 months ago when it would have mattered. Now I just want you to understand what you did and stop playing the victim. I do understand." That email made it clear. You've been more than generous. Generous? I almost laughed. So now it's generosity, not sacrifice or dedication? Like I was doing you a favor instead of acting like your daughter? What do you want me to say? I want you to admit you took me for granted. That you treated me like I didn't matter while Jacob could do no wrong. I want you to admit you failed me as a father. The words lingered between us. His face fell, and for a second I thought he might cry. "You're right," he said quietly. "I did take you for granted. I did treat Jacob differently. Why? Because he needed it more. He always struggled. You were strong, independent. You didn't seem to need me. Everyone needs their father, Dad. Even the capable ones, maybe especially them." He nodded slowly. "I see that now. Do you really? Or are you saying what you think I want to hear?" He met my eyes. "I see it. And I'm ashamed. You deserved better than what I gave you. Better than being used like an ATM. Better than being pushed out of your home. You deserved appreciation, not neglect." It was the most honest thing he'd said in years. "Thank you," I said. "Does it change anything?" "I don't know," I admitted. "It doesn't undo what happened, but it means something that you finally see it. Can we start over? Try to rebuild? Maybe one day, but not now. I need time. And I need you to understand our relationship will be different. I'm not your caretaker or your financial safety net. I'm your daughter. That's all I can be right now. I understand. Do you? Because understanding means not calling me when money's tight. It means not guilt-tripping me for not visiting. It means letting me live my life without making me feel bad. Yes, I understand. We finished our coffee in uneasy silence. But something had shifted. Not repaired, maybe never fully, but changed, toward honesty. Driving home, I felt lighter. The anger that had weighed me down for months finally began to ease. I'd said what I needed to, and he had listened. More than I'd expected. Life went on. Spring came to Kansas City, bringing warmth and new opportunities. My catering company promoted me to operations manager with a solid raise. I started taking business management classes, thinking maybe I'd open my own catering business one day. Kelly became more than the friend who'd offered me a place to stay. She became family. Someone who showed up without being asked, who supported me without expecting anything back. Dad and I spoke weekly now. The calls were brief, polite. He'd stopped complaining, stopped asking for money. Progress, even if small. Jacob had improved too, not perfect, but trying. Therapy helped. We weren't close, but we were civil. Sometimes even sharing lunch and honest conversation. Then in June, Aunt Patricia called. Camilla, I thought you should know. Your father's been telling people the truth. About how much you did for him. How you supported him. How poorly he treated you. He has? Yes, he's not making excuses anymore. He's just being honest. After we hung up, I sat quietly, processing. Dad was finally telling the truth. Not to fix things, but simply because it was right. A week later, he called. Would you come to dinner? I'm making pot roast, your favorite. Just you and me. No lectures, no guilt. Just dinner. I went. The house looked different without Jacob and Stephanie's things scattered everywhere. Dad had tidied up, making it feel like a real home again. My old room had been turned into a guest space, neutral and impersonal. Dinner went well. We started with easy topics. My work, his health, the weather. Then, as we cleared the table, Dad said something unexpected. I've been thinking about selling the house. Really? It's too big for just me, he said. Too many memories, too much upkeep. I found a senior apartment complex across town. 1 bedroom, all on 1 floor, easier to handle. I think it's time. That sounds like a good idea. The money from the house will make things easier. I won't have to depend on anyone anymore. He paused. I won't need to rely on my daughter's generosity. Dad, let me finish. I've been selfish for years. Not just with you, but with myself. I've been making excuses instead of taking action. That ends now. I'm finally taking responsibility for my own life. Tears filled my eyes. I'm proud of you. I should be the one saying that, he replied. You've done something amazing with your life, despite everything. You're stronger than I ever was. We hugged, really hugged, for the first time in almost a year. 6 months later, I stood in the living room of my new apartment. Not the tiny studio, but a proper 1 bedroom with a balcony and enough space to host friends. Kelly helped me hang pictures on the wall. This place is perfect, she said, stepping back to look. It really is. My phone buzzed, a text from Dad. Settled into the new place. It's perfect. Thanks for helping me choose. I'd gone with him to tour senior living options, offering advice but letting him decide. Our relationship had grown into something balanced, respectful yet warm. Then Jacob messaged our sibling group chat. Dinner this weekend, my treat. Let's celebrate your promotion. The catering company had made me a partner, giving me a share in the business and a clear path toward owning my own location someday. I looked around my apartment, the furniture I'd worked for, the degree I was earning, the career finally gaining traction. None of it would have happened if I'd stayed in that house, trapped in the role of the self-sacrificing daughter who gave everything and got nothing in return. Getting kicked out turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. Jacob eventually found stable work and began contributing to Dad's care. Stephanie remarried in Denver and, from what I heard, had become someone else's challenge. Dad was thriving in his new apartment, making friends and finally owning his choices. As for me, I'd learned that boundaries aren't selfish. That walking away from dysfunction isn't abandonment. That sometimes the greatest act of love is loving yourself enough to leave. I'd spent years being the good daughter. and where had it led me? Broken and lost. Now I was the daughter who chose herself, and I had never been happier.